welcome to Interviews in Cal's Closet here on CFTA 107.9, where my guest this week is Chipman Minto, New Brunswick singer-songwriter Carla Bonnell. The show is being sponsored by Amherst Auto Supply, your local Napa Auto Parts store located at 63 South Albion Street. Carla and I will talk a little about her background, when she became interested in music, her father's musical influence on her, a connection she has with Cumberland County, when she started writing and what influences her songs, why she waited until recently to pursue a career in music, where she hopes her music will take her in the future, who recorded her latest CD, The Liberator, for her, and of course we'll be talking about and playing some songs from that recording, as well as lots more. I'll be your host, Cal Lewis. Please sit back and enjoy the show. The following interview was recorded at Studio CAL in Halifax. Carla, first I'd like to thank you for taking the time out and coming down and doing this interview with me. I know you had quite a long drive this morning.
Yeah.
To start things off, can I get you to introduce one of the songs from your CD, The Liberator, and give us some background on it?
Sure. I think one of the good ones there that is The Kitchen Party, because we used to come down almost every weekend from New Brunswick to Parsboro. My uncle, Freddie Myers, he lived in Parsboro. And it was always a kitchen party down there. And I learned to do some picking while I was there because they would just throw it at you and say, it's your turn. And you just kind of felt like if you didn't, you were going to be shamed to pieces. So you tried. So that's where The Kitchen Party came from. And my cousin Julie, her name's Furlong now, but her last name was Gilbraith at the time. We would drive 4 hours in a day to get down there, and sometimes just spend, half an hour, and then go back to New Brunswick. But, we loved the culture and we wanted to be there. So it was a good time.
There was a kitchen party every Saturday night. You could hear the fiddles till the morning light. Dogs all asleep on the mat at the back porch door. Danny would start with an old folk song, then all guitars would play along. No one knew the song name, that's for sure, but it sounded like this. Scott would pick out a banjo tune. Linda kept B with her wooden spoons. The dog kept sleeping on the mat at the back porch door. There was a kitchen party every Saturday night. You could hear the fiddles till the morning light. Dogs all asleep on the mat at the back porch door. Danny would start with an old folk song, then all guitars would play along. No one knew the song name, that's for sure.
Can I get a little background on you, where you were born and brought up?
Well, I was born in Fredericton, but I was raised in a little place. It's on Highway 10 called Salmon Creek between two towns, Chipman and Minto. I went to school in Chipman and I hung out in Minto. My mom was from Chipman and my dad was from Minto, so it was kind of a halfway spot. So that's where I was raised in New Brunswick.
Where have you lived since then?
Everywhere I can think. I lived a little bit in Duncan, BC with my dad, Rick Myers, when I was a teenager. Probably about 4 months, and then that was it. I missed the Maritimes, had to come home. Couldn't handle it. And I lived in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. I lived in Parsboro for a little bit. I've lived in Timmins, Ontario. Now I'm living in North Bay. I lived in Fredericton, lived in Moncton, so I've gotten to taste a few of the cities around.
When did you first become interested in music?
I think it's kind of funny because when I was a young kid, I didn't like music at all. I was one of those ones that wanted to watch all the comedy shows, and if there was any singing on it, that just turned me off right away. I didn't want to watch. It's weird. And then probably when I was always interested in piano, not so much singing, but I used to have a little tiny toy piano that my grandmother got me, and I would play little keys on that. And then when I was about 12, they actually bought me a piano because they tried to get me into a whole bunch of different things like sports and dance and see what I liked, but I never really liked anything that much to stick with it. And then the piano I couldn't lug around. It was just too big. It was like, great a big stand-up piano. So I thought, maybe a guitar. So my mom got me a guitar, and it sat in the closet for a year because I didn't know how to tune it. There was nobody around that knew how to tune one until my uncle come home from Ontario. And he tuned it for me that summer and showed me how to tune it by ear. And then that's when I started playing. Learning on my own, I learned out of a book. Then my cousin, when she found out that I could play guitar just a little bit, chord a few things, she's the alumnus that ended up putting me into contests and not tell me about it till the last minute because she knew I'd say no. So I started enjoying that because we started doing harmony, and then I kind of got liking it a little bit more, but I really, really blossomed in it, and it became a passion when I met my biological father when I was about 14, and he was a musician. And in order to share his experience, I shared music with him, and that's what got me hooked.
Did you ever have any musical training at all?
I took classical piano up until my teacher retired and left the village. So I think I almost got to the final stage of it. So that's the only formal training that I've had.
Who were your biggest influences in the industry when you started playing?
The biggest influences really were the local musicians, because they were the ones that I actually would hear songs from that I wouldn't have heard on the radio, like the 60s and the 50s music, both country and rock. Also, like the folk music that I fell in love with. That's where I would hear it from, because we didn't have a whole lot for variety for radio back in those days. I'm aging myself now. I remember when Rock 103 actually got put on the boards in Moncton. So remember, wow, it's a radio station we can actually hear. So like Dave McNeil, Jocelyn McNeil, they were big influences. My dad, my uncle. And I started falling in love with the old country artists like Waylon Jennings. I loved his beat because he was a little different. I wasn't so much into the modern country of that day, but I liked that outlaw beat that he had. So anything with a boogie in it, I liked, and it didn't matter what artist it was. So I kind of fell towards more like a sound than I did really artist, yeah.
Can you remember your very first stage appearance? And does it hold any special memories for you?
I can. Dave McNeil had a talent show at the Chipman Elementary School, and I was maybe 15 at the time. And me and my cousin Sandra Barton sang a duet there. And it was memorable because I was shaking so bad, and I never played with a band before, and so there was all this activity in behind me going on. I'm playing my little flat top, trying to remember the words to the song, and all these people. It wasn't that many people, maybe 50 or 60 people there, but that was intimidating because I was an introvert. I was shy. I didn't go anywhere and do anything. So I remember my mind being pretty blank in the whole thing and it looking very surreal from where I was standing.
When did you start writing your own music?
Pretty early. Started playing around with music, writing it. As soon as I could play guitar, actually, I would start writing kind of like poetry and then turning it into a little beat. I didn't take it too seriously at all. Like, it came from a cultural background that, you know, if you did something like that, you were going down a wrong path. You were going to starve to death, and you weren't respectable and all these things. So I didn't take it that seriously until later on in life. And a lot of those songs I don't even have anymore. I threw them away. I had them memorized in loose papers, so I wish I had kept them, because some of them were really good.
What inspires you to write the music you write today?
I have to say, what really sparked me was Stompin' Tom Connors. I had went to Nashville to record my first one, and the whole purpose was just to leave my children and future grandchildren something of myself, like my father did for me. And when he passed away, he left that open letter to his fans, and he said that he was passing the torch on. And it hit me like a brick. And I said, I have stories to tell of the people that I meet and the experiences that we share. And that's when I got serious about it. I said, you know, I got something to say. It may not apply to everybody, but I really felt called to take up the torch in my way and continue on with what he's done for this nation.
Mm-hmm. Can I get you to introduce another one of the songs?
Sure. Let me see here. I'm trying to pick something I like. Isn't that funny, eh? The Letter. It's an interesting song. It's more like a ballad. And it was written, my goodness, back in the 1990s. And I remember where I was when I wrote it. And it was kind of a breakup song, kind of a leaving a small town song all at the same time. So there's two themes mixed into it. A lot of people like that one.
The loneliness within me is driving you away. Though you say you love me, I know you cannot stay. The years have come between us, tearing us apart. Please know you're always with me. You're deep within my heart. The loneliness within you is driving me away. Although I said I love you, you know I cannot stay. The years have come between us, torn our dreams apart. And yes, I'm always with you. I've been here from the start. The loneliness between us has pushed us far away. And though we say we're happy, the smiles will fade away. And now there's only silence and an ache that nearly drowns. Today we said goodbye, love, goodbye to my hometown. Yes, I'll say goodbye, love, goodbye to my hometown.
You know roughly how many songs you have written so far?
That's a good question. I think I was digging around because I'm actually going into studio again soon. I think I've got about maybe 20 finished songs and about 15 unfinished so far from just this year. Counting what I have thrown away, which I got nailed. JP Cormier said, don't you throw your songs away. I said, okay, I won't do it anymore. So I have no clue altogether how much, probably maybe 50 or 60.
Have you done any co-writing with anyone else?
No. Maybe I will at some point in time find somebody that's kind of on the same wavelength as myself, but everybody has something that they want to say. When I want to write a song, I usually have something I want to say. And I notice that a lot of co-writing is like coming together with ideas, collaborating, and coming up with the song for radio or for the industry. And I'm not really interested in that part of it yet, but if I did find somebody that was interested in kind of like what I'm writing about, I'd probably co-write. But I don't know, because everything happens with writing just like that, and my life's so crazy with being on the road, so...
Now, have you always been a solo performer, or have you...
No, this is new for me. I had a band almost all the time, so solo performing was very intimidating, going out and doing that. I did when I was a teenager because they'd ask you to come in, but usually there's a band to back you up, and you know, if you were doing a relay for cancer or whatnot, they would have people there to play along with you. So it's been quite intimidating because, especially when you play with somebody like JP Cormier, that's just amazing one-man band anyway. And I always look at myself as trying to be up there where my mentors are, and I don't realize that I do pretty good where I'm at. You know, people say, you play guitar really well, and I'm thinking, no, I don't.
Well, speaking of JP, he is the one who did the recording for your CD.
Yes.
And played most all of the instruments, too.
He played them all. I said, you go do it.
What was it like working with him?
He was awesome. I had a little of a hard time in Nashville because of the production that they go through, and I was not comfortable with it. And JP was able to get me to a place mentally and psychologically where I found myself in my music instead of trying to be stuck in country or stuck in rock or stuck in folk. He said, let the song speak for itself and you just deliver it. So I learned a lot from him. He was super fun to work with. He always had me laughing, and when he didn't have me laughing, I was learning something from him. And he didn't even know he was teaching anything. He was a great guy to work with. I'd love to do it again someday.
Have you ever been a guest performer on anyone else's recordings?
Yeah, I did a compilation CD years ago, 1996. They had a CD that they put out called Rural Spotlight, where they had called and asked me, do you have any original material you can put on? Because it was just a bunch of us guys from the Chipman-Minto area, and they wanted to put that CD together. So that's the only thing that I have done. Oh, I forgot my uncle. He did a CD, and he asked me to guest on that one too.
Who was your uncle?
Oh yeah, Fred Myers from Amherst.
A little connection there. I was waiting for that to get brought
sorry
over
about that.
there.
I just thought you should know that, Cal. Come on.
Well, I might, but others around might not. Well, can I get you to introduce another one of the songs that you would say best describes you as a person?
That would have to be Two Little Towns. And that song is based on my experience and the culture of Chipman and Minto, New Brunswick. It talks a lot about what we were all like there, and of course your communities form part of your personality that really never leaves you. So I got a little bit of Chipman in me and a little bit of Minto in me, and that song kind of describes it out.
They ask me, where do you belong? I say, I don't know. Mom, she is from Chipman, and my daddy's from Minto. So I live between these little towns, proud to call both home. Building crazy memories, never really cared to roam. buds without a 4x4. Enjoyed your summers at the lake with fires on the shore. Go to Minnow for the booze and Chipman for the mix. If you want a good old small town brawl to get your weekend fix. When Monday morning rolls around, you better get down to the mill. Make another $20, get that weekend thrill. Chances are you knew someone who worked at MB Coal and worked a lot of hours there, giving heart and soul. You probably went to dances put on by Dave McNeil and were the first to clog it up to the jigs and reels. Go to Meadow for the booze and Chipman for the mix. If you want a good old small town brawl to get your weekend fix. When Monday morning rolls around, you better get down to the mill. Make another $20 to get that weekend thrill. Better make another $20. Go see Dave McNeil.
Would you say that your music falls into any one genre or style?
No, even live, for example, like the CD itself for With Two Little Towns, that kind of, on the CD it sounds a little bit bluegrass, that kind of style. But when we play it live, if I'm playing it with a band, it sounds like hardcore country. So I will fluctuate depending on what I feel the crowd wants to hear. So I'm very adaptable that way, and I love to feed off the crowd and the crowd to feed off of me. So I find my music is you can just do whatever you want with it. And that's part of the fun of this type of writing that I do, because it will fit wherever you want it to.
When did you decide you wanted to try to make a career in music?
Believe it or not, it was last year. I came out of studio last May, and I wanted to do this particular CD because my father passed away in 2007 and my brother passed away 2 years ago, and he lived in Westville when he did pass away. So when I wanted to get these songs recorded in memory of my dad and my brother. And when I got done working with JP, I was hiding some songs from him. Like, I just didn't want him to see it. And he was like, "What else do you got?" And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have actually thought of this as a career path. But he told me, "You're really good." He said, you're a very good writer. He said, "And you're pure." He said, you're not fake. He said, you can do this if you want to." And I think that was the first time hearing that from somebody with the caliber of JP. He's been around everywhere. He's been in Nashville. He's been all over. And for somebody to believe in you and what you do, it was like, yeah, I could do this. Why not? Life's short. Let's get at it. Let's do it.
Exactly. Where would you like to see your career in 5 years' time?
I would absolutely love to see me being able to put out recordings at least every 18 months. I'd like to see a good library of material behind me. I'd love to continue to tour. I'd like to see myself with a steady band that's like a marriage, like bands are like that. They become family. And I'd like to be able to hook up with people that I can trust, that care about each other, and that can do road work together and enjoy what they're doing and make a difference in people's lives.
Do you know if your music's getting much airplay?
Actually, yes, it is. I won the Academy Award for Best Country Album. It's out of Los Angeles, California. And they did some test runs with it. And one of the songs on the CD, they're pushing as a single, which is amazing for non-commercial. But they are pushing it as a single. And it was being played in 5 major radio stations in the Berkshire group in the United States, Australia. And it did so well there that now it's moving into the European market. So it's getting really good.
Getting around.
It's getting around.
How much touring have you done so far?
Not a whole lot. I just was blessed enough to get a manager, because booking takes every waking minute. and follow-ups and keeping on it, and I was just getting burnt out already, haven't been at it that long. So I was really lucky to find Dave Young out of Newfoundland, and he liked the music. He thought I was pretty good at what I was doing. He said he liked me, so he said, I'll help you out. So he's handling that for me now, and he's got some things lined up for next year. So we're hoping that by the end of this summer, we'll know if we're going to get that national tour that I want.
That would be good too. Is most of your touring done through the Ontario area, or?
Ontario and New Brunswick. That's basically where I've been concentrating on at the moment, just because there's connections there with other musicians.
When you first started trying to get into different places to play, how hard did you find it to get people to let you come in and play your music without having heard of you before?
It's almost impossible. It can happen, but you have to do it for free. So what I've ended up doing is we have a lot of, especially where I'm at in Ontario right now, there's a lot of really awesome young artists. And I don't know why they like me, but they do, and they invite me to jams. And those jams are in some of the venues that I would like to play at some point. And that helps you get heard a little bit, and then once they hear you, they will decide whether they want you or not. But it is tough. I find it tougher down here on the east than it is in Ontario.
When you went in to do this recording, was it anything near what you had expected it was going to be when you walked in the studio, or did you have any ideas at all of what it was going to be like?
That's a really awesome question, because when I walked in, I was thinking, he can't do nothing with me. There's just nothing he can do with these songs to make them sound good. And when he heard them, which amazed me anyway, he said, play it. So I'd play it once, sing it. He'd have it just like that. And then away he went and took what I wrote and put all this beautiful instrumentation to it. And when I walked out of there, well, I cried when he was playing it back to me before we got them pressed. And I cried. I said, I can't believe I wrote that.
Well, I'll get you to introduce another song for us.
Okay. I'll give you The Calling. The Calling I wrote in North Bay the summer before I put this CD out. So it was a fairly new song that was on here. And I had a little Sheltie dog. His name was George, whom I loved more than life itself. He was about 13 and a half years old at the time, and he was blind and he was sick. And I was sitting outside and pretty weepy and choked up. And I was thinking if I could just get him back to Nova Scotia, because he lived here too with me. And he loved the ocean. He'd bark at the waves all the time. And that's where that song came from, was wishing that I could get him home one more time, and I never did.
For so long, I never know where to call my home. There's a place keeps calling me, the shores of Nova Scotia by the sea. Your ancient voice in the ocean deep calls to me and wakes me from my sleep. Turn me around and take the key that keeps me locked in a city from the sea. My liberator, my creator, you're calling me. An orphan child and a lonely soul, surrounded by the Grand Lake wash plant coal. Until that day, the Atlantic roared. Upon those eagle's wings, my spirit soared. Your ancient voice in the ocean deep calls to me and wakes me from my sleep. Turn me around and take the key that keeps me locked in a city from the sea. My liberator, my creator, you're calling me.
you started making any plans yet for your next recording?
Yes, actually, I'm looking at working with a group in Sault Ste. Marie this time, just because of the cost of coming east for me it's getting tighter and tighter. They're a really nice group of young guys. They're kind of real modern, and his name's Dustin. And he says we'll probably be able to start in studio. Actually, when I go back, about the week after I go back, we're going to try to get in there. If I can ever get the click tracks ready for him. Get off the road for a while and settle down.
When you went in with JP, were the songs you finally put on the CD ones that you had planned to at the very first, or did you end up rearranging or taking some out and adding other ones in?
Yeah, JP listened to everything that I had, and he's a mastermind at how to put a story together on an album. And there was some that I thought we would put on, and not that they weren't great songs, he said, but it just didn't fit the theme of what he was hearing out of most of my music. So we did cut quite a few of them, and other ones that I didn't think he would even like or want to put on there, those ones went in.
So far, other than the award in LA, have you won any other music awards?
Yeah, years ago. I don't really go into contests very often because they take a lot of time, and well, truthfully, some of them are fixed. Have to be blunt about that, sorry. So if I do go into a contest, it's because I want to experience something other than winning, usually. So no, I haven't. I'm going actually into the Ontario Country Music Open in Nipissing in August. Not because I wanted to enter the contest, but a lot of my friends out there said they just want to hear me sing. So I said, okay, if you don't care if I win, great. I said, I'll go in and sing. The last two awards I won weren't for writing. They were just for performance. There was one in Havelock, New Brunswick, that actually Julian Austin, he won his record deal through it. And I got to first round in that, but because of circumstances at the time, I couldn't go back and compete again. And before that, it was just winning little awards in my hometown for, best singer this summer or whatever. But
But you have got aspirations maybe for some in the future?
Yeah, if awards that actually recognize you, like the ECMAs, they're great awards because they recognize people from this area. There's so many good artists, and it must be hard for the jurors to be able to pick anybody, and there's so many different genres come out of here. But yeah, if it was something that's recognizing my work, I wouldn't say no to it for sure.
What's the largest crowd you played in front of so far?
Believe it or not, it was years ago, and I was accompanying on piano another girl, so I wasn't singing or anything. So I think we had 1,100 at the high school at the time. And the largest crowd since I've been an adult's been about, I think they said around 750, and that was at the New Brunswick Country Showcase at the Playhouse Theatre in Fredericton.
Can I get you to introduce another one of the songs?
Sure. Gypsy Heart is a rhythmic song. It's just about wanting to see things in Canada. It's a little sassy, telling people like bug off. I want to go see some things. I'm busy. Busy having fun in my life. So it's a fun song.
Why don't you peddle your papers next door? I don't want to hear it anymore. I've got things to do, people to see. Your chains are too tight and they're hurting me. You can go ahead and tell me that you'll try to keep me overly preoccupied. I got a gypsy heart, it's driving me. It took me all the way to Tennessee. I want to see the Grey Mountains, big and tall. I want to see Cape Breton in the fall. Want to feel the wind off of Fundy Bay. I want to meet a few people who know what it's like to come unglued and then get tight. Next door, I don't want to hear it anymore. anymore. I've got things to do, people to see. Your chains are too tight and they're hurting me. You can go ahead and tell me you'll try to keep me overly preoccupied. I got a gypsy heart, it's driving me. It took me all the way to Tennessee. I want to see the great mountains, big and tall. I want to see Cape Breton in the fall. I want to feel the wind off the Fundy Bay. I want to meet a few people who know what it's like to come unglued and then get tied. I'm gonna meet a few people who know what it's like to come unglued and then get tied. That's alright.
Would you prefer playing in front of a large crowd like that or a small, intimate one like a house concert or a small pub?
I like them both because they both bring different value to the performance. I love the intimate performances, and I also like the larger crowds as well because each quality is different. There's a different type, believe it or not, of intimacy in a large crowd. And hearing a large crowd be full of joy is different than a small crowd being full of joy. It's just different, but they're both great. I'm used to smaller crowds, and I will play for 3 people if 3 people show up, and I'll give them the best performance of my life because I just love music. I try to keep my performances as, full of me as I can, so it really doesn't matter.
If you could go back in time, is there anything you would have changed so far in your career?
Yeah, I would have started earlier. I wouldn't have listened to the naysayers and the negative thinkers that told me you can't do it for a living, or you're no good, or it's not going to happen for you because you don't have the great country voice. No, I don't, but I got Carla's voice, and some people happen to like it. And if I had known that when I was younger, I would have kept at it and learned to play the guitar a little bit better than I can now. As you get older, you're slower getting at it, but I'm still trying to learn.
What has surprised you the most thus far in your career?
What has surprised me the most is the response that I'm getting from people I don't know. Because I was told not too long ago, a couple of years ago, that there wouldn't be anybody like my music except family and friends. That was one of those negative thoughts. So when I charted #1 in Montreal, I nearly flipped my lid. I couldn't believe it when my radio guy called me and said, "You're #1 in Montreal." I said, "No way." She gave me a screenshot and showed it to me. CIBL, and thank you CIBL Montreal if you're listening. And British Columbia, I stayed on the charts, and I stayed on a long time, longer than normal. Typically, I guess, if you're charting in non-commercial, I guess it's around 10 weeks and then you kind of fade off. It's typical. I was on it for 15, 16 weeks. And she said, it's rare to hear of that. That blew me away.
I'm going to start a sentence, and I'll get you to finish it for me. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about
music. I go to sleep thinking, I wake up thinking it. I even sometimes dream it.
Other people tell me they write songs when they're sleeping.
Sometimes.
Yeah. What do you feel is the biggest accomplishment so far?
I think my biggest accomplishment is overcoming my own doubts. Because you can't have an accomplishment if you're full of doubt. You have to overcome those things inside of you and try to believe in yourself enough so somebody else will actually notice. So I think that is a foundation for any accomplishment. I'm just blown away that they got that award for Best Country Album and that I got on the radio at all. So it's like, yay!
Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to talk about, either regarding your music or anything else?
Well, I would like to let you know a little bit about my dad, Rick Myers, and his father, which is my grandfather. His name was Fred Myers Sr. And Fred, I called him Grampy Fritz. He actually had a radio program in St. John years ago before the CBC took over. And he played a lot with Don Messer. And my dad, I was so proud of him before he passed away, because he was supposed to open for Waylon Jennings at one time, and he messed that up. I forget what happened to him, but I wouldn't tell on him anyway if I did remember. I wouldn't do that to you, Dad. Anyways, he did open for ZZ Top and George Fox.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was from the 80s. He was big in the 80s. So he ended up opening for them, and I was like, there's Dad opening for ZZ Top. That's just too cool.
Yeah, it would have been cool. When you're performing live, is there one of the songs that the crowd seems to get into the most, give you the most feedback from?
Yeah, The Last Train, it's actually featuring JP singing with me as a duet on it. And a lot of people really like that because duets are very popular anyway. And that song is actually based out of watching Chipman and, not so much Mento, but Chipman started shrinking. And I was away for about 3 or 4 years. And when I came home, the grass was starting to grow up on Highway 10 coming into Chipman, and it flipped me out. It was like, what happened? And storefronts were closed, some buildings were actually gone, and a lot of people had moved to the gravy train in Alberta because there was just nothing back there anymore. You know, I like to speak my mind sometimes, and I did pass the CD over to a couple of politicians and told them, listen to Last Train. Please. So that one does explain the phenomenon of the East Coast, because we've always been doing that through history, as we've been building the country and then we've been forgotten about.
Walking across the river with everything I own. The wind is at my back and my heart I left at home. Just barely made the last train before the winter storm came down. I'm heading to Alberta, to the biggest little town.
So many folks are passing, so many are depressed. You can't get unemployment and they jacked up all the rent. Healthcare doesn't care no more, we can't afford the crutch. Everyone just locks the door and ain't back after lunch.
And it drains the soul to watch it go. No one's left in town. And it drains the soul to watch it go.
It's a quiet, eerie sound.
So many on this rundown train making the great escape. Tired faces full of fear and their eyes are full of ache. I think I'll take a visit to the home that I once knew. There's not a lot of people left, but I heard there's still a few. And it drains the soul to watch it go.
No one's left in town.
And it drains the soul to watch it go. It's quiet, eerie sound. And it drains the soul to watch it go. No one's left in town. And it drains the soul
To watch it go.
It's a quiet, eerie sound.
Do you have a website where people can go to find out more about you and your music?
Yeah, they can go to carlabonnell.com. That'll give them everything from my schedule to some videos, live videos if they want to see. They can listen for free to some of the music that's on both CDs. And it'll give them some announcements coming up, like the official video for The Last Train should be released within the next 2 weeks. So that should be up on that site too, so they can take that in.
That should be about the week this goes to air.
Perfect.
Well, Carla, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out, come down and visit with me. I drove all the way from Chipman this morning to Halifax, and that's quite a little trek.
Oh, I was glad to do it. I love getting to Nova Scotia every chance I get.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
The preceding interview was recorded at Studio CAL in Halifax. I hope you've enjoyed my interview with singer-songwriter Carla Bonnell from the Chipman-Minto area of New Brunswick and learned a little about her and liked her music as well. This show has been sponsored by Amherst Auto Supply, your local Napa Auto Parts store located at 63 South Albion Street. I've been your host, Cal Lewis, for interviews in Cal's Closet here on CFTA 107.9.